Hey y'all, welcome to the check-in. I'm your girl, STEMFashionista. Yes, I was just chatting in the chat here, letting everyone know. Let me cut this music off. Letting you guys know that hey, I started the live stream a minute early. Okay, it is 7:15 and we already going, y'all. Check this out. Yes, I'm proud of me. I made sure I was going to be in place, ready to go on time today. And I did it, okay? How are y'all doing today? Happy Tuesday. Get into it. And yes, I'm drinking water, y'all. Yes, I am. Like I said, this is the check in. Y'all know I like to brand things. So I have four different live streams that I'm doing right now. One is called the check-in, one is called Unfiltered Conversations, then we have After Dark, and then we have Reset and Realign, honey. So they all have a different vibe, okay? But yeah, so who do we have here in the chat? We got Mr. James Ferris. How you doing, Mr. James Ferris? Welcome to the live stream. I am doing well. How are you? Yes, today was my last day on being on furlough for the time being. And I ran errands today, grabbed something to eat, and now I'm back home relaxing and getting ready for the work day tomorrow. Although I do have a medical appointment I need to attend, so we'll see how this plays out. We got Mr. Lou here. Where them fans at? Hey, it's cold here. The fans are on strategic pause for a hot second. It should warm up here a little bit in the next week, like get into like the lower 50s. So, whoo, that still sounds cold, but it's better than what we've been experiencing here, which have been like maybe, 20, 30-degree weather. So I'm looking forward to some lower 50s next week. Yes. So, y'all, I got a lot of topics for us today. And we are going to go ahead and get things started. Like I mentioned, the furlough is over with for now. They did fund 11 of the 12 bills through the end of the fiscal year. The one that ICE is on with DHS is still kind of in limbo. They have 2 weeks of funding, so they can kind of, go ahead and get some things figured out in the next couple weeks. So we will see how that goes. But I would not be surprised if there's a third shutdown with just the DHS people in the next couple of weeks. So we will see, y'all. So let's go ahead and see what Speaker Johnson had to say about it because, he's always good for a little bit of shade in his commentary. Let's get into it.
Afternoon, everybody. We just had an important and historic vote on the House floor, a series of votes today, in fact, and we delivered for the American people for some. Good afternoon, everybody. We just had an important and historic vote on the House floor, a series of votes today, in fact, and we delivered for the American people. For some reason, many of the House Democrats wanted to shut the government down again and inflict pain on the American people. But I'm glad to tell you, I'm happy to report, Republicans got the job done. Our majority worked together, and we got the bills over the line. So we have now funded 11 of the 12 separate appropriations funding bills for the government for the year.
Okay.
And that's a big achievement because it's a big move towards regular order, is something we promised and committed to. The biggest move towards that in many, many years. Now, the President, the White House, have engaged in good faith with Democrats in the Senate, and they've said they would negotiate on the final bill, the Homeland Bill. And you might say, well, now that 96% of the government is funded, it's just 4% what's out there. But it's a very important 4%. Because remember what the Homeland Security Bill covers. It's not just Immigration Customs Enforcement. It's not just Customs and Border Patrol. It is TSA. It's the agents who keep us safe in the airports and keep air travel moving. It's the Coast Guard. It's Secret Service. It's FEMA. We're in the middle of winter storms that people are still digging out from. So this is no time to play games with that funding.
Okay, y'all. So I did not realize that they had TSA and FEMA and all those folks as part of the DHS bill. So there you have that. So very important. I think there are still some areas of the U.S. that had some bad weather recently, not just the winter storm, but other things too. Um, but yes, also, did you hear how you were saying that some of the Democrats wanted to keep the government shut down? that little bit of shade, as I called it. But yes, y'all, the government is back up and running for the time being. So we will see what happens in the next 2 weeks when it comes to DHS and them being funded. So we'll see. All right, y'all, let's go ahead on to the next. The next thing that we have here, let me look at my list. The next thing we have here is we have Liam. So we talked the other day about Liam, the little 5-year-old that ended up being detained. They took him and his father from Minneapolis all the way down to Dilley, Texas. Okay, so let's go ahead and get into that. We have a good news story and a little bit of not so good news too mixed in, but let's get into that.
Good morning, I'm Devin Karp. Thank you for joining us on GMSA. Just coming into our newsroom, we have exclusive information and video from ABC News. The 5-year-old little boy from Minnesota, Liam Conejo Ramos, and his dad, Adrian, who were taken into ICE custody last week, have been released. What you're looking at right now is the first images and video of the family since Representative Joaquin Castro shared his visit to the ICE detention center in Dilley, Texas earlier this week. The two boarded a flight in the San Antonio International Airport this morning, heading for Minneapolis. Liam's father, Adrian, said he is, quote, happy to finally be going home, according to ABC's John Quinones. A federal judge ruled that their confinement at that ICE facility in Dilley violated constitutional protections and ordered they be released by Tuesday. The judge had criticized the government's handling of the case, calling it ill-conceived. Earlier this week, Texas lawmakers and community advocates traveled to Dilley, Texas, pushing for their release, saying Liam had been struggling ever since he was detained. Right now, we're taking a live look at the San Antonio International Airport, where the two of them, Liam and his father, heading out from. We know their flight took off earlier this morning and that ABC News, along with Representative Joaquin Castro, are on the plane with them. We're expecting them to share more information and more video of the family's return to Minneapolis later on today. U.S. Representative Joaquin Castro said in a statement, in part, quote, thank you to folks all across the country and around the world for speaking out in support of Liam and so many other children in detention following that judge's order. KSAT 12 has also reached out to Representative Tony Gonzalez for comment and are waiting to hear back.
Okay, y'all. So yeah, good news story. You know, Liam has made it back to Minneapolis with his father and everything. I did see where his mom had met them and everything. So a nice little family reunion. But y'all, we just can't be great, can we? So in the district in which he goes to school in, by chance, they received some bomb threats, right? So we are going to hear a little bit about that and all that rigmarole. Let's get into it.
On air and streaming on KARE 11 Plus, I'm Julie Nelson.
And I'm Rena Sargentopoulos. Students and staff at Columbia Heights Public Schools are set to return to class tomorrow after a bomb threat closed all district buildings today.
The Columbia Heights Police Department did not find anything suspicious at the affected schools. Ian Russell.
Let me just say that I think that's interesting that the day that this young man and his dad, you know, were set to come back to Minneapolis and everything. I don't think he's gone back to school yet, of course. He needs time to, get reintegrated, right? But someone decides to provide a bomb threat to that school and whatnot, and they didn't find anything. But what's to say that they don't do it at a later time? You know what I'm saying? Like, you just can never be too matter of fact when it comes to those kind of things like that, because whoever sent that should know, like, okay, they're gonna not have kids come to school, they're gonna make sure everything's good to go. I just hope that they have something in place to monitor these facilities for the long term. Let's get back to the video.
Joins us with reaction tonight. Ian?
Julie, certainly a scary time for families and staff in the district today. Multiple schools received those threats, leading to classes being canceled district-wide. Quiet campuses dot Columbia Heights Monday as the district canceled all classes. Early this morning, the Columbia Heights School District says several schools received bomb threats by email. The threats were too close to student arrival to fully investigate, so classes were canceled. The district says law enforcement found no suspicious packages or devices. This threat comes just a day after 5-year-old Liam Ramos returned home after being detained by immigration agents and sent to a Texas facility with his father. Liam attends Valley View Elementary. The school says several other students and at least 25 different families have had a parent detained by immigration agents.
Just finally got to see some good news in the community as Liam was brought home, and then, like I said, 24 hours later, it's just chaos.
One parent I spoke with says his student goes to Valley View, now hoping things calm down at his child's school.
Families and neighbors, afraid to leave their house, and, my kids, confused by it all, wondering where, certain classmates are. Urge everyone to stay safe and, just be there for each other, because it seems like things are going to get worse before they get better.
Law enforcement is still looking into the source of those threats. The district says some sports will resume tonight, but students will head back to class tomorrow. Julie.
All right. Thank you, Ian.
Okay. Well, yeah, I'm sure his classmates were kind of wondering, like, where's Liam? You used to send your classmate on a regular basis, and then he's not here, and he's on the news. And they did say that there's a few other kids from that school and district that are also at that same detention center that he was at back in Texas, in Dilley, Texas. So I'm hoping that these people are able to, leave there soon, especially if they are not considered, illegal immigrants, right? I did watch something where they were saying that, some people had been there for over 28 days. And that the kids were supposed to be, getting some type of education, but they may have not been receiving all that. It doesn't appear to be the best environment, if you will. So I'm hoping that things will progress as far as hey, if these people are not illegal immigrants or whatever, why are they being sent there? I made this comment yesterday because I would think that you would have looked into the status before spending resources to send them to another state. Like in the case of Liam and his dad, they flew them from Minneapolis to Texas, to Dilley, or San Antonio, Texas, to the Dilley Center, detention center, and then it had to be flown back. That's some money that you're spending on that. Plus the amount of money you're spending to house them in that detention center, which didn't seem as if a lot was being spent as far as housing the people that are there, right? But anyway, y'all, just kind of wanted to hint on that a little bit. I'm glad that he made it home, and I'm glad that the bomb threat was not realized, if you will. So I think that's good on those fronts. Now, the next thing I have here is a gentleman that is a medical doctor, and he was just talking about how he has had to see a couple of patients, and they had the ICE agents right there with them. Now, I thought it was good to kind of bring it out because I saw where they were saying that there was a couple of measles cases found in a detention center. I want to say down in Texas. So let me look it up real quick before we move on to that video. Because I want to say that, if we have so many measles cases, then we lose a certain status that we have as a country. 1 second, y'all. Let me find this info real quick. If you have anything you want to say in the chat, feel free to do so. Yes. I'm going to type this in real fast, and 'cause I like to have my information updated as I'm talking about it. So measles cases in detention centers. Question mark. Let's see what they come back with. It's thinking recent. Let's see, particularly. Let's see if I can find something. What is this? All right. They want me to log in. Okay, I don't have time for that right now. We're gonna go ahead and play this video, y'all. Let's hear what the good doctor had to say.
Today in Columbia Heights, law enforcement citing emailed bomb threats. Police didn't find any suspicious packages or devices. Yesterday, a 5-year-old Columbia Heights student and his father returned to Minnesota.
Y'all, I was ahead with my commentary, so we'll let this play out and then we'll get to the medical doctor. Let's keep it going.
Detention center in Texas. Fox 9's Rob Olson live in Columbia Heights for us tonight. So Rob, to be clear, law enforcement not making any connections between the threats today and yesterday's return. But what do we know at this point?
Well, they say, Columbia Heights police said it was emailed threats to multiple schools in the Columbia Heights district. And they came with not enough time to do anything before classes were to begin this morning. So that's why all the classes or all the schools in this district, classes canceled for today. Now, Columbia Heights Police, along with the fire department, Minneapolis Police, and Metro Transit Police, they say they did a thorough search. But again, it wouldn't have been enough time to have classes going. But after that search, as you said, no suspicious package or device found. So yes, the investigation continues now into who sent these threats and why. What's the motive here? And of course, they didn't make any connection between the timing of this and 5-year-old Liam Ramos's return yesterday. But of course, that timing will certainly be part of the investigation to see if there is any connection in terms of one thing happening right after the other.
And Rob, again,
I tell you what, I'm surprised as to why they're saying they didn't consider there being a connection. That's the first thing I thought about, was a young man getting released, going back to that area. I mean, I had never heard of Columbia Heights until I heard about Liam, being detained. So interesting to hear what they come out with in regards to that bomb threat situation. Let's keep it going.
talking about, 5-year-old Liam Ramos, who is the Columbia Heights student, his father returning to Minnesota yesterday, and so much has happened in that case. Did we ever get to the bottom of why federal agents say they were targeting his father?
That's a good question.
Well, we do know that he was Ecuadorian with a asylum request, the family, according to the family's attorney anyway. But there are, of course, differing accounts of what happened from the Department of Homeland Security and from school district officials and friends who were on the scene that day. But his release now yesterday in Texas comes after nearly 2 weeks after he and his father were detained in Columbia Heights. And of course, getting a lot of headlines, the picture of him with his little hat and his backpack on. But again, this has been an issue that led to a federal judge in Texas issuing the order on Saturday and taking a lot of issues with what happened here, constitutional issues here, and, writing about how an administrative warrant issued by the government to itself, he said, is not a valid thing. It needs to be a signed judicial warrant. So that release coming yesterday, flown home alongside his father, a Republican representative, Joaquin Castro down there helping with that. But again, back here in Minnesota yesterday after a couple of weeks, and again, the family's attorney saying they're still pursuing this active asylum case for the family here, that they had been going through that process. Oh, and the superintendent of schools, by the way, we spoke to, also talking to us this weekend about what his return to school might be like.
I think we all saw the news that he was under the weather, and so, he needs to get well. We'll be working with the family on that, on what their wishes are in terms of, when he might be coming back to school. I know that all of his classmates and his teacher and all of the staff at the school would be so happy to see him. It might take a little bit of time, though, I imagine. There haven't been any decisions made on that.
And Rob, you talked to the superintendent as well about some ICE activity around the school, how that's been. What did she say? Is it heavy? What are they witnessing?
Yeah, she spoke about this. I emailed too with somebody else with the district today, kind of reiterating the same thing, that it's been a heavy presence here for weeks. And they say that is most notably in the morning, when kids are coming to school, and at night when they're getting out of school as well. And that heavy presence hasn't declined at all. In fact, the superintendent mentioning there were 3 high school students just on Friday that were stopped and questioned on their way to school. And she said there are still 4 students from Columbia Heights being detained in Texas, 1 high schooler and 3 elementary age students as well, that they're keeping track of and trying to figure out what's going on there and if they can get them back here to Columbia Heights.
All right. Thank you, Rob.
Okay. So yes, hello, no, VN6BU. Welcome to the live stream. Um, no says that they went after the dad, not the kid. Yeah, I get that. Um, yep, I recognize that. I was just saying that I didn't even know anything about a Columbia Heights area until this kid got sent down. Him and his dad got sent down to Texas to be detained, right? So that's what I think you may be referring to. Not sure, but yeah. And then they were saying that, oh, they tried to take the child home to his mother and she wouldn't open the door. Um, yeah, I'm not gonna get into all that, but yeah, glad that they're back home. Then we also have Kiefer Unmanned Aviation here. Welcome to the live stream. He or she is laughing with tears. And then there is a message I have. Okay, so just so you guys know that sometimes YouTube will censor your comment. So I see your comment over here on my streaming platform, Kiefer, and it says if there weren't 50 plus million illegal invaders here, this wouldn't be happening. Okay, I got that on the screen so we can have it shown. Okay. Yeah. All right, y'all. So we're gonna keep this thing going. All right. Next up.
There should never be a federal agent in a medical exam room, but over the past few months, while working in the hospital, I've had multiple ICE agents sitting in the room while I talk to my patients. Not outside the hospital, not in the hallway, in the room. My name's Dr. Joel, the Medical Mythbuster, and today let's talk about ICE, hospitals, and why this is becoming a public health issue. Twice in 1 week, I took care of patients transferred from ICE detention centers. In both times, ICE agents stayed in the room, listening, taking notes, even sometimes interjecting. That immediately raised concerns for me about privacy, consent, and the power dynamics at play, especially when language barriers were involved. So I looked into the law, but what I found wasn't clarity. There are clear protections for patient privacy under HIPAA. There are longstanding norms about hospitals being sensitive areas. But what I found is there's far less legal clarity when someone is already in federal custody and being given medical care. And ambiguity is where harm often lies. And unfortunately, this isn't isolated. Over the past few weeks, reporting out of Minnesota has documented ICE agents in hospitals, specifically in patient care areas. Doctors and nurses there are describing an environment where patients are delaying care, rationing medications, or avoiding the hospital altogether to avoid immigration enforcement. That's the moment this stops being a political debate and becomes a public health issue. Hospitals rely on trust. Patients have to be safe enough to feel like they can literally divulge some of the most vulnerable information of their life. When enforcement enters that space, it fundamentally changes that interaction. And it doesn't just impact undocumented patients, it impacts everyone when we start to have to wonder whether care comes with consequences. So when we talk about ICE, we can't just limit conversations to borders or detention centers. We have to ask, what happens when enforcement enters spaces that are meant for healing? What does that do to already eroding trust, to outcomes, to those who feel safe enough to seek care at all? This isn't just about immigration policy. It's about whether healthcare remains a place of care, whether it becomes another site of surveillance.
Now that's interesting. I hadn't thought about any of that because I don't operate in that world. But what do you all think about what he had to say? Let me get to the comments here. So we have Mark Lowe. Welcome to the live stream, Mr. Mark Lowe. What we need is term limits for Congress and Senate, and they can't work for a lobby firm for 10 years. Mark got the answers, y'all. All right. And then we have Lavonda Camellia. Hey girl, welcome to the live stream. She says, Mark, I totally agree on term limits for Congress. Okay. Now I had a comment over here from Kiefer that didn't show up on YouTube as being censored. I'll put it up here, y'all. It says illegally entering the USA is a felony. All illegal aliens are felons. And I think he had another one over here. Okay. If there okay, he already read that one about the 50 million illegal invaders. Okay. Want to make sure I don't skip at this stage. Okay, so we have another one here that says, so he's saying Americans have to obey the law, but illegals don't. That's what he put in there as well. Then we have Hippolito Cruz. Welcome to the live stream. You can't see me. Hippolito Cruz, welcome to the live stream. He's saying you're full of poop. I think he's talking about the person that video I was playing. Okay. What else we got here? All right, so we have Nern 8087. Welcome to the live stream. They're saying who paying for it. So I think you're asking who's paying for the medical care that they're receiving at the hospital. Is what I think you're referring to, right? Then we have Angie Scott 2688. Welcome to the live stream. They're saying, okay, what about me? I'm a senior citizen and American. Sorry, not sorry. Then we have Lou giving Lavonda a shout out, saying she has entered the chat. We have Robert B 6790 in the house. Welcome to the live stream. Kiefer is saying YouTube is censoring me. Yes. So I can see that comment on YouTube. The only thing I can see from you on YouTube, Kiefer, is your two comments of YouTube is censoring me, and then when you did like the laughing emoji, the three of those. Everything else is not showing up on YouTube. It's showing up on my restream because it doesn't have that filtering, if that makes sense. And then we have Lou saying, please like, share, comment, and subscribe. Yes, thank you. Keep me on track. Okay. So I think I'm caught up with everything. Yeah. So let's keep it going, y'all. What else do I have? So the next thing we have is I mentioned yesterday about what's going on here? Oh, he said thank you. Oh, you're welcome. Yeah. So I mentioned yesterday that they are going to provide all of the Minneapolis ICE agents with the body cams, and then they're going to deploy out across the US as funding allows. So you know what that means, right? So it may be a slow process. I mean, if they're only being funded right now for 2 weeks. Then they're going to be furloughed again probably. So I guess we'll have to see how soon they can get those ICE agents with body cams, as all this funding stuff is going on. But let's look at that real quick because I think that was one of the things that the congressional people wanted in order to sign off on this bill. So let's get into it.
Also, some big news coming in just recently about the Department of Homeland Security as Kristi Noem announcing that body cams will be worn by all ICE and Border Patrol agents effective immediately. President Trump there also mentioning that here in the Oval Office. This is the post on social media from Kristi Noem saying, I just spoke with Border Czar Tom Homan, the ICE director, the Border Patrol Commissioner, and effective immediately, we are deploying body cameras to every officer in the field in Minneapolis. As funding is available, the body camera program will be expanded nationwide. We will rapidly acquire and deploy body cameras to DHS law enforcement across the country, the most transparent administration in American history. Thank you to the president, President Trump there alluding to that, saying that it's, quote, good for law enforcement. And this comes after all that has transpired in Minneapolis. A live picture there in a frigid Twin Cities as we're learning the body cams now for every officer in that federal workforce, ICE, Border Patrol, following the deadly shootings of Alex Pretti and Renee Good. So obviously the Department of Homeland Security in their investigation following the shooting of Alex Pretti said they were looking at, in the investigation, some body cam footage used by officers involved in that interaction, in that situation. As immigration operations, they continue in Minnesota. As we're learning more information about all of this, as DHS funding, the center point of what's going on with the ongoing government shutdown, a potential negotiation underway if this 2 weeks CR, continuing resolution, the stopgap, continues to move forward. So we're learning that here on Live Now from Fox in terms of that body cam, but also information out of Hennepin County, the county that Minneapolis and the Twin Cities, they sit in, as the medical examiner also ruled today that Alex Pretti's death as a homicide, noting he died of multiple gunshot wounds, which is obviously not surprising. But some big developments there in Minneapolis as we enter a new month this February.
President, Kristi Noem just announced that you're deploying body cameras to Minneapolis. What's your thinking behind this decision, and do you want to see this?
Well, it wasn't my decision. I would have, I leave it to her. They generally tend to be good for law enforcement because people can't lie about what's happening. So it's generally speaking, I think 80% good for law enforcement. But if she wants to do that, I'm okay with it. Remember one thing, we closed the border. I got elected on a disastrous border, and we have nobody coming in through our border anymore. We had 25 million people come in 4 years through our border. Many of them were murderers and drug dealers and mentally insane from mental institutions and insane asylums. And now we don't have anybody coming in. For 9 months now, I mean, they actually report zero. We have 0 people coming in, which I find hard to believe, but the Democrats do that report. They tend to be left-leaning that do that report. So I assume it's true. And if it's not, it's a very tiny amount of people. But we basically have a tremendously perfect, strong border. And also crime levels are at the lowest point they've been in 125 years. Since 1900, we have the best numbers. And that's despite the fact that we had a lot of criminals and murderers. 11,888 murderers came in. And we have the lowest numbers that we've had in 125 years. So, we're doing a good job. If she wants to do the camera thing, that's okay with me.
Okay, y'all. So like I said in the comment, one thing about President Trump is he gonna let you know his progress report. Okay, every chance he get that, and he gonna talk about Sleepy Joe. Okay, but anyway, y'all, I think it's a good thing. I see that we have Cornelia Major 2107 here. Welcome to the live stream, and she's saying only works if you turn them on. Oftentimes, just as they step out the car, they turn them off. I hope that if they receive them, that they would actually use them right. That'd be very unfortunate if they did not. So Cornelia's saying, yes, they have an on and off switch. Oh, okay. Wow. So they have it on okay, do they have them on while they're like driving around or whatever? Like, what's the protocol? But okay, I hope that they have them on, because if they don't, if they don't have them on, then that would be a waste of government resources to buy these for them. And it's not going to give the true picture of what's going on out in the field when they're interacting with people that they're trying to, obtain and get custody of, right? Now, when I was telling you guys earlier about the measles thing, so yeah, there were 2 cases of measles that were confirmed on 31 January at the South Texas Family Residential Center in Dilley, Texas. So let's see. In response to the outbreak, ICE Health Services Corps halted all movement within the facility to quarantine and control the spread. So at least 2 detainees that have active confirmed infections. So yes, we got that going on. Okay. So let's see what we got here in the chat here. I have my tablet up too, y'all, so I can actually see a little bit better. That's why I'm looking this way. So we have all things Key Nicole. Hey, how you doing? Welcome to the live stream. Hey Tip, I'm late as usual. No, you on time. What we talking about? Right now we were talking about the stuff going on with the body cams for the ICE agents, the little 5-year-old Liam that got, released back to Minneapolis, all that good stuff. And now we are going to switch to, okay, Alex Pretti. So on Sunday, for it was a couple people that were here on Sunday that was telling me that the Pretti family did like an interview, and I hadn't seen it when we did the live on Sunday. And honestly, for the last 2 days, I have not been able to really locate such a interview. Let me change that real quick, y'all. I haven't been able to locate that interview. What I have been able to locate is like people who have talked to the family that have kind of spoken on behalf of the family. So if you all have seen this interview, if it exists, because maybe I had the wrong perspective or expectation, then send me, in one of my videos, put a comment with the link, because I check all my comments to these videos that I post, right? But yeah, I could not find like an actual like video of the family talking to someone, but I did find where people have talked to the family and they have kind of, spoken on their behalf. So let's go ahead and get into that. Here we go.
We begin this morning with yet another lethal shooting of a protester in Minneapolis. A 37-year-old VA intensive care nurse who, according to the Department of Homeland Security, was killed by immigration agents firing, quote, defensive shots. But once again, there are questions surrounding his death. We get the latest from Lana Zach.
Last night, a traumatized city tried to come to terms with another death caused by federal agents.
As darkness has fallen here in Minneapolis, we still see hundreds of people marching to memorialize Alex Pretti.
The moments leading up to the shooting were captured by multiple cell phone videos. After a federal agent pushes one person and uses pepper spray, more officers converge and wrestle Pretti to the ground. An agent appears to retrieve a gun and turn away from Pretti, while at least one other shoots and kills the 37-year-old U.S. citizen. Pretti worked as an intensive care nurse at the Veterans Administration. In a video released on social media, he's conducting a hallway memorial for a deceased veteran.
May we never forget and always remember our brothers and sisters who have served, so that we may enjoy the gift of freedom.
Yesterday, Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem claimed, with no evidence, that Pretti was responsible for the confrontation.
This individual who came with weapons and ammunition to stop a law enforcement operation of federal law enforcement officers committed an act of domestic terrorism. That's the facts.
It is nonsense and it's lies.
Minnesota officials noted Pretti was a legal gun owner and had a valid permit to carry. Videos of the incident do not show Pretti approaching officers with a gun in his hands. His parents said in a statement, "The sickening lies told about our son by the administration are reprehensible and disgusting. Please get the truth out about our son. He was a good man."
Okay. So y'all, I was in the chat chatting and all of that good stuff. So I had got a comment here from Marjorie Breslin, 2995. Welcome to the live stream. I'm gonna put your comment on the screen, but I need to read it first so I can read it aloud. They took the video down because it defeats the narrative of the left. So I was just saying, y'all, how I could not find the interview of the family. And so Marjorie's letting me know that I guess she's seen it and that they took the video down. So man, I wish I could have seen, could have seen that for myself, but wow, that's crazy. And then we have Ascending saying, There, okay, what Ascending is saying, there's questions. First of all, welcome to the live stream, Ascending. Let me not forget to greet you. There's questions on why they keep photoshopping his pics. And then you're saying, okay, Pretty's pics are being photoshopped, adding more color, shaping his face, adding muscle mass. I did not know that. Okay. I'm gonna start looking out for that as so I'm starting to get more info on this stuff in my algorithm. So I'm gonna start paying more attention to how he's looking. Um, Not that I don't believe what you're saying. I just never thought that anyone would do that. So it's not something that I would have just noticed, if that makes sense. But yeah, okay. Let's keep it going. What else do I have? I have a little bit more on that. So yeah, I have something from Waltz when he talked with the family. Let's keep that going.
We're now about 24 hours from the killing of Alex. And during that time of everything that's happened, I hope everyone's taking away a picture of a life of generosity, service-oriented, and his life's coming into clearer focus. I had the privilege of talking with Michael and Susan, Alex's parents, yesterday, and the heartache in the hours after your son's murdered in front of the world is one thing, but what stood out to me was a parent's desire and their passion to make sure that the story of Alex was told. Someone who went to work to care for veterans, someone who was a valued coworker, someone who relished and lived in this state in a big way, whether it was outdoor activities or being down there on the street as a First Amendment witness to what ICE is doing to this state. So once again, to Michael and Susan, when I talk to these parents, it's always in deep confidential conversation. In this one, though, Michael was very clear to me. He said, don't let them forget Alex's story. The world knows how he died. He died at the hands of ICE agents on the streets of Minneapolis. They want us to make sure we said how he lived. So to Michael and Susan, our deepest sympathies, but you have my commitment to continue to tell that story. So now we've got 2 Minnesotans dead. We didn't had time to start telling Renee's story of a poet and a mother and a bright spirit, and now we're telling Alex's story. So my question is, what's the plan, Donald Trump? What is the plan? What do we need to do to get these federal agents out of our state? You thought fear, violence, and chaos is what you wanted from us, and you clearly underestimated the people of this state and nation. We are tired, but we're resolved. We're peaceful, but we'll never forget. We're angry, but we won't give up hope. And above all else, we are clearly unified.
Okay, y'all. I'm sorry that video was that low. I'm gonna work on that. Make sure we don't have that happen again. Let me see what we got going on here in the chat. Well, first of all, before I get to the chat, what he did say was he talked to the parents, and they wanted him to, help keep their son's name alive, and and talk about the good things about their son. And he did ask at the end to Trump, like, okay, what are we gonna do? What is the plan? What is the way forward, right? So that is what he's asking here. So we have Mark here. Welcome to the live stream, Mark. And Mark has a little scoreboard going on. Mark, I mean, come on. Yeah. We have Maxwell Mango 6427. Welcome to the live stream as well. Saying, yeah, scoreboard. Then we have at Negrified Hero. Welcome to the live stream. That is saying Trump Nation. And then he also stated, or he or she also stated that Alex self-deported back to Jesus. My goodness. My goodness, y'all. Okay, so we are going to move on to the next situation here. And let's keep it going.
He thought it was terrible, kidnapping children, just grabbing people off the street. He knew it was wrong, so he did participate in protests.
He loved his country, but he hated what people were doing to it.
He was an ICU nurse, and this morning his family saying they're heartbroken, but also very angry, adding he was a kind-hearted soul who cared deeply for his family and friends. Their statement then goes on to say that he is clearly not holding a gun. He has his phone in his right hand, and his empty left hand is raised above his head while trying to protect the woman ICE just pushed down, all while being pepper sprayed, they added.
We had this discussion with him 2 weeks ago or so, that go ahead and protest, but do not engage, do not do anything stupid, basically.
He wouldn't.
And he said he knows that. He knew that. He's
Okay, y'all. So, okay. So we have Marjorie Breslin here saying, oh, she's laughing at Negrified Hero, Lord. But yeah, we have his parents on here, saying that they talked to him before he was unalived and they asked him to not engage, with the law enforcement. And unfortunately, there was some engagement and he is no longer here with us. So yes. So let's keep it going. Now, this next video is the reporter that found out about Alex passing away and reached out before the parents had even been they hadn't been notified yet that their son had been unalived. So let's see what he had to say. Let's get into that.
The name of the person that had been shot by the Border Patrol in Minneapolis was Alex Jeffrey Pretti. I reached out to his family, who I had been able to find through a public records database. And unfortunately, they had not yet heard anything about the shooting and did not have any idea that their son might be involved. I gave them a little time to check the news, to turn on the television, and they saw the video of the shooting and recognized the man that was being shot was their son. We then spoke again, and they described him to me as someone who was extremely empathetic and disturbed by the immigration crackdown going on in his city, someone who would have cared very much about people he perceived to be under threat by the powerful, by the government. And they weren't surprised at all that he was out there protesting. In fact, after the shooting of Renee Good earlier in the month, he talked to them about going out to protest. And they told him to be safe and to be smart. And he said he would. That was not the last conversation they had with him. They spoke with him about a couple days ago, and they talked about he was having a garage door repaired on the condo where he lived, and the worker who came was a Latino man. And they talked about what was going on in the city, and he ended up giving the man a $100 tip just because he felt so bad about what people of color are going through in Minneapolis. Also spoke with his ex-wife, who confirmed that they had protested during the George Floyd protest in 2020, that he was a Democratic voter. Family members also confirmed that he had a concealed carry permit to carry a handgun and that he owned a gun, though they said they had never known him to carry it with him. And certainly, according to family,
That's interesting that they weren't aware of him carrying his handgun with him, because he had it on him when he had the interaction about 11 days before. So quite interesting. And I think I made a mistake and did something with the video when I was trying to talk. So give me a second to get this back right. 1 second.
Legal gun owner and had a valid permit to carry. Video.
Okay. Hold on. What did I do, y'all? One second, y'all. I think I. Here we
Eventually,
go.
they called the Hennepin County medical examiner, who did. They told him, according to family members, especially his ex-wife, he was someone who might shout and holler at a protest, might say some things to law enforcement officers, but not someone they would have ever thought would have been involved in a physical confrontation. I told them that the information we had was that a man that had been taken to the hospital after the shooting matched the first, middle, and last name of their son. Originally, we were given a different age, but then a source came back to us and said that the man was 37, which was the age of their son. They were obviously shocked by that news. They were upset. His mother began to cry. But they very quickly started talking about what a wonderful person their son was, what a loss this was. Someone that was warm hearted, that really cared about other people, cared about the environment. They described him as an avid outdoorsman who loved his dog named Jewel, who he took everywhere with him until his dog passed away as well about a year ago. But they said he was just really concerned about what was going on in the country, that he loved our country, that he was a proud American, but that he really hated what was happening to it under the Trump administration. After I first spoke with them, they reached out to law enforcement. They called the Minneapolis police, who referred them to the Border Patrol. They couldn't get an answer from the Border Patrol or any information at all. They started calling hospitals. Provided the information about the hospital where I heard their son had been taken, and they couldn't get any information out of the hospital or confirmation either. Eventually, they called the Hennepin County medical examiner, who did confirm that there was a body at the morgue that matched the name and description of their son.
Yeah, wouldn't that be crazy that you get notified that your son or your loved one has passed away by a news reporter? Um, that's just interesting. I'll say that. Very interesting. I mean, they didn't even have an opportunity to like collect themselves, or, I'm sure they were in shock, because their only son is no longer with them, on this earth, right? And then you have a person who's with the news media that's relaying the information to you. And I mean, I understand everybody has a job to do, right? And I guess some people, even if they knew, like, I don't think I would want to call them like the day of, within hours to say, hey, da 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 da. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, I thought that was interesting when I saw that this person, I was I was surprised to hear how they found out, and then I was surprised to see this interview from the person that relayed the info to them. I will say it like that. What we got here in the chat? So we have Mr. Ascending. He's saying, I wonder if spitting on agents and kicking taillights off of vehicles as anything stupid. Ascending. I'm sure his parents did not think that was wise for him to do. Yeah, no, and that's the thing, a lot of people are saying, well, I have a right to protest, right? But then I think that term peaceful protest, I think that peaceful part is eluding some of the people. Um, you know, you can protest without talking to these agents and different things, but um as you'll see later on, like with some of the for I will say the agents, right? So I don't know, like I said on my original live stream, like we got to figure out ways to get our point across and have a voice without putting ourselves in harm's way, if that makes sense. So um we got Ascending also saying with extra magazines. So we have Beardy Robinson in the house. Welcome to the live stream. We have Rebel Bama Boy 251. Welcome to the live stream. Rebel says, ma'am, like Western hat makes you even more prettier. Thank you. This is one of my favorite Western hats. I love the flowers on the side. Then we have Donna 2982 in the house. Welcome to the live stream. Let's see. I think I got everybody's comments. Yes. I don't think I'm behind on anything. All right. So let's keep it going. Yeah, this next video is gonna discuss the cause of the unaliving here. So let's keep it going.
Well, medical examiners have ruled Alex Pretti's death a homicide, and this is the second protester killed by federal agents in Minnesota during Operation Metro Surge. Our Asher Red is in Minneapolis for us right now, and so Asher, bring us up to speed here. What did the medical examiners say in their report?
The medical examiner's office says Pretti died from multiple gunshot wounds and that he died in the emergency room. Now, anti-ICE protests grew even larger after Pretti's death. Today, protesters were rallying outside the Target headquarters here in Minneapolis, and they were calling for the retail chain to take a stand against the Trump administration's immigration crackdown in Minnesota. These protesters.
Let me ask y'all this. So why do they want Target headquarters to take a stand? Like, out of all the people or companies out there, why were they insisting upon Target's headquarters taking a stand? Let me know what you guys know about that in the comments, please. I'm asking seriously.
Target is letting federal immigration agents gather and coordinate their operations in store parking lots. And today is Target CEO's Michael Fidelki's first day on the job. Now, last week, Fidelki joined 60 other CEOs in Minnesota-based companies in an open letter demanding for an immediate de-escalation of tensions and for the state, local, and federal officials to work together to find real solutions. But some folks say that's not far enough.
As you know, Michael, Target relies on immigrants, from the workers in your stores to the drivers who deliver groceries for Shipt to the people who grow and process the food that you sell. We're asking you to speak out against the violent abductions of those workers. Our neighbors, our fellow workers, our family members, they deserve dignity. They deserve work permits and a pathway to citizenship.
Over the weekend, thousands of protesters marched through Minneapolis demanding that ICE leave the Twin Cities. Some of them even built what they called filter blockades in the middle of South Minneapolis intersections. Protesters directed traffic, turning a four-way traffic light intersection to a traffic circle. They stopped cars, asked people for IDs, and were checking license plates, all as a part of an effort to stop people who they think are ICE agents from getting through. But DHS Secretary Kristi Noem says these kinds of tactics won't slow down the Trump administration's immigration enforcement.
We've seen the left violently react, perpetuate violence and mob rule in our cities in retaliation for President Trump enforcing the law. Even though we have these violent monsters that are attacking law enforcement every day, continuing to use their tactics, we will outsmart them.
And just today, Secretary Noem announced that federal agents here in Minneapolis will be using body cameras effective immediately. And she says that policy will be expanded nationwide as DHS receives more funding. Back to you.
And Asher, a big reason for the body cameras is because of the shooting death of Alex Pretti. And I understand that we have an update from a federal judge concerning that shooting today. Tell us about it.
Well, the Minnesota Bureau of Criminal Apprehensions, which usually investigates these officer-involved shootings, says that their investigators were denied access to the scene by federal agents, despite the fact that they had a judicial warrant to be there. And a federal judge in Minnesota issued a temporary restraining order, which has now been lifted. That judge saying that it's very unlikely the Trump administration will destroy any evidence related to that shooting.
All right, Asher Red in Minneapolis for us tonight. Okay.
Okay, y'all. So I was kind of trying to figure out something as well. Sorry about that. Let me go back here. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead. First of all, thank you Forklift for letting me know that you can hear me and you can hear the video. So I get a little distracted when I think you guys can't hear me. So what we have here, so Lou says that my mic went out. I think I don't have a microphone on, but I think you guys can hear me, correct? Okay. So let me go back up. Sorry, y'all. I'm trying to go back to where we left off at in the chat here. Okay. So we have Paula Tollefson with the blue hearts. Thank you. Welcome to the live stream. We have Forklift 8. If I didn't tell you welcome, I'm telling you welcome now. Uh, they're saying, remember after Rittenhouse, Democrats said no one needs a gun at a protest. I do not remember that. But thank goodness that you all do. So thank you for putting that here in the comments here. And then we have Fur Nerd Telephone. Welcome to the live stream. Saying it's a distraction. Ascending says it's political posturing. Paula says DEI. So you're talking about why they're asking Target to stand up, right? Forklift Abe says Alex Pretti got looks maxed. Now y'all know I don't know what that is. What is that, Forklift? So then Forklift is putting some type of address here in the chat. That we got Paula saying crybaby no. We got Forklift saying crybaby walls. We got Forklift saying yes, saying that he can hear the video. Thank you. And then we have Bone 42,000 saying Renee good and Ellis Pretty got. Oh my God, Bone 42,000. First of all, thank you for supporting the channel. But that's something to say, sir or ma'am. So we have Forklift saying, welcome, Miss. Lewis saying that was his audio. No problem. And then we got Forklift saying they changed how he looked with filters. Okay. All right. So yeah. So the main thing of the last video was that they ruled his unaliving as a homicide. Yes, they did. So that was the main thing of that video. I was trying to do a lot of figuring out, so I didn't really focus the way I needed to on the rest of it. But that was the main point, was that it was considered a homicide. Yes. So the next thing, we're gonna kind of shift gears a little bit. Like 3 million Epstein files have been released. So I got a little bit of content on that. So let's go ahead and get into that, y'all, because it's I'll be honest with you, I really haven't followed this Epstein situation. So I was quite surprised that it was 3 million. And I think there are some challenges right now because some of the victims' information was included in these files, like names, some baking information I heard, all that kind of stuff, right? So we're going to get into that a little bit. And I also saw where they're going to have former President Clinton and Hillary Clinton give depositions. So we got that too. Let's get into it.
Here with me now is Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche. Thank you so much for joining me this morning. I want to start with the Epstein files. Elon Musk, who is mentioned in some of these files, wrote, quote, "What matters is not the release of some subset of Epstein files, but rather the prosecution of those who committed heinous crimes with Epstein. When there is at least one arrest, some justice will have been done. If not, this is all performative, nothing but a distraction." Is the Department of Justice considering bringing any additional charges here?
Well, look, I can't talk about any investigations, but I will say the following, which is that in July, the Department of Justice said that we had reviewed the files, the quote Epstein files, and there was nothing in there that allowed us to prosecute anybody. We then released over 3.5 million pieces of paper, which the entire world can look at now and see if we got it wrong. And so it's not performative, and I respectfully disagree with that statement. We were ordered to do so by Congress and then by the President of the United States, and that's what we did. And let me, I said it on Friday, this Justice Department, the FBI, DHS, we have gone after more sex traffickers, more child pornographers, more men who have done harm to children and young women than any administration in history. And so we need to separate those two ideas, the fact that there's the Epstein files and whether there's anybody there that we can go after, and the work that we are doing every day, which is extraordinary, and we will continue to do that.
Among these new files is a list compiled by the FBI just in August of numerous salacious and, to be really clear, unverified allegations about President Trump. Why did the FBI create this list last year, and have all of these claims been investigated by the DOJ?
So look, it's not about President Trump. It's about a ton of people, multiple people that were, quote, in the Epstein files. And what I think folks will see when they review the materials we released is that there have been hundreds of calls made to the FBI where allegations are made by either anonymous individuals or people who are very quickly determined to not be credible, whether it's the nature of what they're saying or the fact they won't provide any information or corroboration. And that's part of the Epstein files.
I do want to move on. Former CNN anchor Don Lemon and another journalist, Georgia Fort, were arrested on Friday.
Let me stop real quick. So I saw on a different platform where they were saying that they have no plans of charging anyone else in regards to the Epstein stuff. That it's not illegal to email with Epstein. It's not illegal to, hang out with him, right? So I'm going to try to get that footage for another live stream. But yeah, so he wouldn't answer the question on this video, but another video with someone else, they were saying there were no plans to file any additional charges. So I want to say the lady who is representing quite a few of the victims, she was just saying how, unfortunate it was, and and how the victims feel, about all of that, right? Now I did see, to Ascending's point, and again, Ascending, your comment is being censored by YouTube, but I'm going to read it. It says, I never thought I'd find the reason why Bill Gates' ex-wife divorced him in the Epstein files. But yeah, OMG, it's Bill, it's Bill different. I'm going to say that. I wanted to get on the screen for a hot second so it can be, part of the live. But yes, I did see where there was an interview with his wife, ex-wife, but I haven't been able to actually sit down and look at it. And that was one of the things I wanted to try to get together for the next live stream to see what she had to say. Because what I could gather, she was very intentional with how she responded to certain things. So that could, that could be why she fared so well in her divorce. Okay. But we're going to get into that. But yes, let's keep this going. I don't think I have any additional comments here. So yeah, we're going to keep it going, y'all.
Friday on charges they violated federal law during a tense protest at a Minnesota church. A conservative federal judge, somebody who clerked for Antonin Scalia, already had rejected those warrants and wrote that there is no evidence that those two engaged in any criminal behavior or conspired to do so. Then an appeals court held up that decision. Why did you then bring this case to a grand jury after it already had been rejected by multiple judges?
So first of all, that appeals court, you're not right. The appeals court, a judge on the appeals court said that there was clearly probable cause. There was absolutely probable cause that a crime had been committed. Okay, so it's true that they rejected the mandamus petition, but Yes, by Mr. Lemon and others. It's public. And so, yes, you're right. A judge in that court had said there wasn't probable cause. But guess what? Our system doesn't allow judges to make that decision. They can make that decision to get an arrest warrant on a complaint, but only a grand jury can bring forth an indictment. And so that's what we did. We went to a grand jury, which, as you know, are 25 citizens from Minneapolis and around that decide whether there's probable cause. And that's who returned an indictment.
Mr. Blanche, I want to go, actually, I went through the entire indictment, all 29 alleged overt acts of conspiracy. And there's a lot to ask you about, but I'm just going to pick a few here, okay? Starting with overt act number 20, which says, quote, defendant Lemon told his live stream audience about congregants leaving the church and about a young man who Lemon could see was frightened, scared, and crying. And Lemon observed that the congregants' reactions were understandable because the experience was traumatic and uncomfortable, which he said was the purpose. Overt Act 21 says, quote, as the operation continued, defendant Lemon acknowledged the nature of it by expressing surprise that the police hadn't yet arrived at the church and admitted knowing that the whole point of the operation was to disrupt. Why wouldn't a jury at trial see this as a journalist observing what is happening, which is protected by the First Amendment?
Well, you conveniently left out multiple allegations in that indictment about what else Mr. Lemon did, including surreptitiously avoiding saying where they were going, being part of the planning, being part of the decisions to make sure the police didn't know this was happening and federal law enforcement didn't know this is happening.
Let me ask y'all this. So I thought that that someone just said that Lemon had shared on his live stream about what was happening. Did I misunderstand that? Yeah, let me know if I misunderstood. So I thought he wasn't a part of, I thought he was not a part of the planning, but was made aware of when things were occurring. Let me know what you guys know about that. I'm gonna let it keep playing.
There are multiple allegations there, and guess what? He gets to have a lawyer and he gets to have a defense. And so if he wants to go forward with the defense that, oh shucks, I was just a journalist, he can do that. But obviously, as the indictment lays out, and which you didn't read on the air, there's a lot of things that Mr. Lemon did that you would never do as a journalist. You would never do that.
Okay.
Let's be honest.
This is not about me. This is about what happened, and this is about kind of the rules of the road. I mean, there are many.
But
let me finish
matter.
my question. Let me finish my question, and then you have the floor. There are countless examples of when reporters are embedded with people with, DOD, where we are told not to tell anybody where we're going. There are numerous examples of when we get embargoed information that we can't report from your agency, for example, and that has happened on with presidents in both parties, and we withhold reporting it until you say it's time to report it. That's not unusual, and it's not unlike what happened with Don Lemon and Georgia Ford.
So let me ask y'all this. So she just mentioned, like, when you're doing things with DOD, Department of Defense, now Department of War, like, you can't divulge information quite a bit of time when you're working with them and other entities. So how does that type of process translate over to working with, like, I think it was the Black Lives Matter organization that was leading this protest, if you will? Like, how does that, I can understand with Department of Defense why, as a reporter, they're doing all these top secret things, security clearances, things like that are being needed, right? So I can understand why you would have to keep things close hold there. I guess I'm not understanding the translation or the leap into how that type of process would apply to this protest. So if you have any ideas and thoughts on that, let me know. So I see I have some comments here. Let me address those before we move on with the rest of the video. We have Ascending here saying he shared as a conspirator, not as a reporter, i.e., he scoped the venue out first and reported back to the group before they proceeded. I didn't know that. I didn't know that. Then we have Paula Paula, why can't I say your name right? We got Paula here saying he was being an observer as a journalist. Okay. Then we have EDZ, Eds, V7H. Welcome to the live stream. And Eds was saying she was talking about national security issues, not the same as some protesters. Totally bogus argument. Okay, because I was trying to understand how the leap was being made with that. So, okay, it's not just me. But I mean, at the end of the day, like I'm just speculating here. We'll find out eventually when they have their day in court. You know what I'm saying? Because um, I don't see the administration not seeing this through. The same way that they went to several judges and appealed to get the arrest and then went to the grand jury, like they're going to continue until they have no more options, whatever they're going to do when it comes to this particular situation. Same way as we saw yesterday with Trevor Noah and how he was making comments about Trump being at Epstein Island, which Trump said was false. And he said he was going to sue Trevor Noah. Like anything he says that he's going to do, he being President Trump, I believe it. At this point, if he says that he's going to do something, yeah, you can pretty much believe he's going to do it. I think he's proven that at this stage, right? But we have Lou here saying, yes, like again, big comment, share, and subscribe. Thank you. I'll put that on the screen real quick. Yes, thank you so much. I keep forgetting to do that. Yes, I appreciate the support of the channel. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and let the video continue going. But feel free to comment in the chat and we're going to talk about it. That's what we do here.
Well, listen, you are totally correct that happens every day and it's happened for decades. But if you watch what Mr. Lemon did, okay, and I do not want to have a trial right here. It's not fair to him. But I will say that if you watch the publicly available live streaming that he engaged in, the comments that he made, I mean, that's what it matters, right? It matters, like, how do we balance the FACE Act? How do we balance freedom of religion, the right of people to worship on a Sunday morning? Okay, and the freedom of the press, and it's a balance that we have to engage in. I agree with you, but my point to you is that I promise you that neither you nor your colleagues can honestly, with a straight face, if you watch everything that he did in the day before with the planning and the day of with what happened when the comments he made while the kids were crying and screaming and racing away while the parents were looking for their children upstairs,
but he doesn't
while they were just trying to have a church service.
Okay. Bottom line question for you is, was this really about what you just described, or was it about trying to make an example out of somebody who the president has sparred with?
I don't even know that the president's even ever thought of Don Lemon. I don't know whether that's true or not. But I will tell you, we're not making examples of people. The day after that happened, the Attorney General flew to Minneapolis. She was there for 3 days. What we saw, there is no scenario under which the American people are comfortable or think that was right. I'm sorry. So no, it's not about
Blanche,
making an example. It's
I
about
want to move on. I want to move on. But the White House, on the official Twitter handle, celebrated his arrest with social media and a chain emoji, and it's pretty clear that they're very well aware in the White House of this. I want to ask about Georgia.
No, I didn't say they weren't aware. Wait. Hold on one second.
And
I didn't say they weren't aware.
That was afterwards.
You said that. No. You said that President Trump had some vendetta or something against Mr. Lemon. I said I don't know whether he even ever thought of Mr. Lemon. I have no idea.
Yesterday,
You're right.
He called
there
him
was
a sleazebag.
a tweet that went out.
Just so you know, he called him a sleazebag just yesterday.
After his arrest. His arrest.
Okay. You said a lot of things before that, and it's mutual. But let me move on to Georgia. Earlier this week, the FBI went into the elections office in Fulton County, Georgia, to seize 2020 ballots, voter rolls, scanner images. And the president told reporters, quote, they got into the votes. You're going to see some interesting things happening. What interesting things is he talking about, and why was he so involved in an FBI and DOJ raid?
Well, just because he said that doesn't mean that he's involved. I don't believe he was involved. This is a criminal grand jury investigation, and I can't comment on it beyond what you just said, which is that there was a search warrant that was authorized by a federal judge, by a magistrate judge in Atlanta, that allowed us to go and seize those records, and they have been seized by the FBI as part of an ongoing criminal investigation.
He said interesting things are happening, so it sounds like he was briefed on it.
I mean, I don't know. I'm not around when the president's briefed or not briefed. What I said is that this is a criminal investigation, so it's a tightly held, as it must be under the law. It's a grand jury investigation, and that's how we're proceeding.
What are they investigating?
He can't tell you that.
As you know, we can't talk about specifics of any grand jury investigation. I will tell you, as I said on Friday, as the president has said, election integrity is of the highest importance to the American people, hopefully to everybody in this country, Democrats and Republicans alike. And so we are doing everything we can to make sure that we have free and fair elections.
Okay, and as you...
Okay, I'm gonna stop right there for a second, y'all. So yeah, so they're looking at the 2020 election results. Did I get that right, y'all? Are they looking into the 2020 election results? Let me see. I'm gonna get to the comments. I'm gonna look this up real quick. I'm not going to leave you guys hanging. Okay, 2020 election results and recent investigation in Georgia. Let's see what I can find. So yeah, I think there is it is the 2020. Hold on. When was this posted? Yeah, posted 2 days ago. So 6 years after President Donald Trump attempted to overturn the 2020 election results, that campaign is still shaping Georgia's next big vote. Well, okay, that's not what I was looking for. But yeah, I think that he is doing a investigation. So yeah, okay, Georgia Fulton County. Let me look at this right here. This seems to be more. Fulton County plans to file a motion challenging what local leaders call an unprecedented and improper seizure of 2020 election records following an FBI search of the county's elections office last week. Let me ask y'all this. So what would be why would they be interested in the 2020 election records? Just want to understand that. Let me know what y'all think. Why would they do this seizure of the 2020 election records? Like once they do the I guess the analysis, which I think this has been done before, right? Like what would happen? What could happen once they do this analysis? Like what changes, if that makes sense? Like I'm just trying to understand what is the reason for like doing that? What's the benefit? That's the thing. What is the benefit of doing this 2020 seizure? Yeah, I'm going to get back to the comments, y'all. Maybe y'all can let me know what y'all think about that. So just to go back, we have we got Tyrone Thompson in the house. Welcome. We also have Miss Nicole Howell in the house saying wow. We have Mike Michaela saying hello. Welcome to the live stream. We have Johnny Bones in the house. We have Paula saying Trump doesn't like Don. I'm starting to think that. I think it's a mutual thing from what I'm gathering. Michaela says hello. We have a Cindy saying, yes, I was referring to the out of office lawsuit. Sorry for not clarifying. Oh, you're fine. I just like to make sure that I'm tracking with what people are talking about, so I'm not, in left field, if that makes sense. So we have Paula saying we should check into the 2024 election. Yeah, and not the 2020. Got you. We got Joseph in the house. We have Ascending saying when he and protesters stormed the church and stopped worshiping services, they violated the churchgoers' right to practice their religion. So Ascending is responding to the question that Dr. Robert 1664 asked, which was, so what exactly did Lemon do? Welcome to the live stream. So yeah, that's the answer there. Um, we have Vangela, President. Welcome to the live stream. Saying that's what I want to know. What did he do to get arrested, Mr. Lemon? So Ascending gave that response earlier. It's kind of, two sides of the coin. Some say, what Ascending said, that he prevented people from worshiping, but then on the other side, Limit is saying he has a right to do his reporting and stuff like that. So I'm interested in seeing like which prevails. You know what I'm saying? Um, yeah, I'm interested to see how this plays out, to be honest. So we have Joseph saying no grand jury. We have Remomon 2.0. Welcome to the live stream. Saying late 2025 on Stephen Gardner podcast with special guest who disclosed that 383. I do not know what that is. So if you're still here, Remomon, let me know what you're referring to there. We have Michaela saying hi, America. Vangela saying yes. Paula saying yes. Ascending is saying, which is one of the 5 parts of the First Amendment. The other part, ironically, is freedom of speech. Joseph is saying Trump lost. Trump lost. Well, he's saying Trumpy, but okay. Michaela is saying yes, that will be um user RQ5LH9ST2G. Welcome to the live stream. They're saying we have to get to the bottom. I agree. Joseph is saying want records to intimidate Democratic voters. He's saying that's why. I think he's answering my question as to why they're looking to those 2020 records. Let's see. Joseph is saying Trump's ego got hurt because he lost. Okay. Then we have Michaela saying hello from Austria. Oh, welcome, Austria. I've never been there before. Heard it's beautiful. So we have Joseph saying no church was stormed. I ain't gonna say the last part. They can read that. He says no rights were denied. It's a public space. We have Kip Terry. Welcome to the live stream, Mr. Kip Terry or ma'am. Okay, Kip Terry, what you talking about, Willis? Where do you rent that cowboy hat, and is it too late to take it back? And you're waiting to see how it plays out, but you don't have a TV or a phone. Stupid. I think Kip Terry is a troll. But yeah, I got this cowboy hat from Amazon. It's not rented. And I do have a phone, a TV, and a tablet as well. But thank you so much for participating in the live stream. And your engagement does help the channel, Kip Terry. So continue to do what you do as I continue doing what I'm doing. Yes. Ascending says the FACE Act, also known as the KKK Act, makes it illegal to interrupt or stop via force or intimidation any religious services. Okay. So there's comments that I see that are being censored. So I'm gonna come over here to see if I can get caught up with all of that as well. Okay, so let me drink something real quick, y'all. So we have Balls Tree, Kerbend, no, Ball Streaker, I don't know. We're gonna call. I'm gonna say Mr. Balls 8978. The law says the right to worship trumps the right to cover. Okay. The law says the right to worship trumps the right to cover a illegal action on the part of Black Lives Matter. Okay. It took me a minute to get it out, but I got it out. Also, welcome to the live stream. Joseph says no KKK present law doesn't apply. Okay. Then we have someone from a different country typing in a different language. I don't know. I can't. I'll show y'all, but I can't read that. So then we have Joseph saying Republicans wear the pointy hats. Okay. And then we have Michaela saying, I have Irish forefathers. Okay. All right, we're going to go ahead on and finish this video. Let's keep it going.
Well know that when it comes to Georgia, claims of voter fraud there, because they got the 2020 ballots, have been debunked over and over again. There were multiple recounts. Why was the Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, present at an FBI raid?
First of all, it wasn't an FBI raid. It was a search warrant being executed by FBI agents in the middle of the day.
But why was she there?
And secondly, I don't know why the director was there. She is not part of the grand jury investigation, but she is for sure a key part of our efforts at election integrity and making sure that we have free and fair elections. She's an expert in that space, and it's a big part of what she and her team look at every day. But beyond that, I don't, like I said before, this is a grand jury investigation being conducted by a U.S. attorney, and that's where we have to leave it for now.
Just days before Congress was set to potentially hold them in contempt, former President Bill Clinton and
So before we get into that, apparently Bill Clinton, Hillary Clinton was supposed to do a deposition, I think last month, and they didn't show up for it. And so now they have informed that they're going to do depositions and, and participate, right? So to my understanding is that Congress was getting ready to do some type of decision in voting to find them in contempt. Those are my terms. And they went ahead on and said, okay, we're gonna come do deposition, which is interesting to me because, like I said earlier, someone was saying that they're not planning on doing any more, they're not gonna, charge anyone else with this situation. So I wonder why the necessity of having the deposition being done from those two. Like, why is that still needed if you're not going to move forward with pressing charges against anyone else that's in this? Plus, former President Clinton and his wife are not charged with anything, but they want that deposition. So let's go ahead on and see what we got going on in here.
Secretary of State Hillary Clinton have agreed to give depositions as part of a House committee's investigation into sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. For months, the Clintons held their ground against Republican Chairman James Comer's subpoenas, dismissing his demands for in-person depositions as legally toothless and invalid, and slamming the investigation as a political hit job.
This appeared to be a high-stakes game of chicken where both sides were standing off to see who would flinch first. The answer seems to be the Clintons.
But after some Democrats said they would join Republicans in recommending contempt charges, the Clintons have now agreed to testify.
If the committee had gone forward and filed formal charges and the DOJ had prosecuted, the Clintons were looking at up to a year in prison and a $100,000 fine each.
Neither Bill nor Hillary Clinton has been accused of wrongdoing, and they both deny having any knowledge of Epstein's crimes. They proposed alternatives to in-person testimony, recently offering to sit for a 4-hour transcribed interview. But Chairman Comer balking at that offer, claiming the former president would try to run out the clock by giving unnecessarily long answers. Comer saying the former president has an established record of being a loquacious individual. And overnight, Comer appearing skeptical that the depositions will actually happen, saying the Clintons' counsel has said they agree to terms, but those terms lack clarity yet again, and they have provided no dates for their depositions. If the depositions do happen, it would be the first time a former president had testified before Congress since Gerald Ford.
The House committee says it needs more clarity on what the Clintons are offering. Any depositions will almost certainly take place behind closed doors.
Okay, y'all. So they're gonna be doing depositions. Um, yeah, they're gonna be more than 4 hours. I would say probably at least a good 8 each. Well, maybe not each. Definitely for President Clinton. I don't think that his wife had ever met him, if I recall hearing that correctly. But yeah, we'll see how that turns out as well. So what we got here in the chat, we have okay, we have Ascending saying, Joseph, you do not know your history at all. The pointy hat guys are hardcore Democrats. LOL. Then we have Ricardo Sims in the house. Welcome to the live stream. Joseph is saying again, Gabbard needs to report to Putin. Michaela is saying hello, everyone that's here. Hey, girl. Then we have Young Fresh 9780. Welcome to the live stream. Saying they know darn well all the crimes. Lying piece of poop. Then we have Vukeliskik 1654. Welcome to the live stream. Saying Haitian kids nothing. Then we have Don Trump 9362 saying, I hope at least Hillary goes to prison. I don't know if she's gonna go to prison. I mean, she's saying that she doesn't even know this man, never met him, so I don't know um how they're gonna pull that off. But I'm looking forward to seeing what comes out of this. So we got Anonymous, welcome to the live stream, saying, cool, now subpoena Trumpstein. Okay. Then we got Joseph saying, I know history. I'm gonna say Boyle. And it is Republican whites with the pointy hats. Okay. So I think I have a little bit more left on the video. Let's get into that.
And out of this, Bill and Hillary Clinton have agreed to testify in the House Oversight Committee's investigation into Jeffrey Epstein. The House was expected to vote this week to hold them in contempt of Congress. The pair was originally subpoenaed back in August. However, neither of them appeared for their depositions last month. Well, now the Clintons' legal team says they will testify if the House does not move forward with contempt proceedings. Meanwhile, Epstein's survivors are slamming the Justice Department after the latest batch of files included unredacted images and names of victims. An attorney for multiple survivors spoke about that issue with Major Garrett on The Takeout.
Two of my clients were clearly identified in these documents. Their names were not redacted whatsoever. And this is not rocket science, right? It was a very simple task of just taking the names of the victims they were aware of, putting them into a search mode in an Adobe Acrobat platform, finding the victims' names and redacting them. And they didn't even.
Let me say that. Let me just say this. I think that it was very it wasn't a good look to not redact the victims' names in these 3 million files. Like, I think when they had the first wave of documents being released, they held things up. So we gotta redact, we gotta, protect, which great. But to put these people's information out there, especially those who are Jane Does and people who weren't trying to be known, to now be identified as someone that was involved in this, like that could be damaging, to their mental health. So I don't understand why they would have thought it would be a good idea to name these victims in these $3 million documents. Like, what do you guys think about that? I'm gonna just keep going.
Do that.
CBS News legal reporter Katrina Kaufman is here in studio with more on all of this. Katrina, good morning. So we've got 2 points here: the Clintons testifying and these failed redactions. Let's start with the Clintons. What might we expect from a former Secretary of State, a Democratic presidential nominee, and a former president when they sit in front of Congress?
I mean, we know that former President Bill Clinton is going to be asked about his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. There are photos of the two of them dating back to the 1990s, the early 2000s. We know that Clinton was on his jet on 4 different occasions. He said that he has never been to Epstein's Island. In that last document dump, we saw some sort of potentially salacious-looking photos of Bill Clinton in a hot tub in one, and another he was swimming with Ghislaine Maxwell in a pool. It is important to note that when Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche spoke with Maxwell over the summer, she said that Clinton was her friend, not Epstein's. And even Susie Wiles has said that Clinton does not appear to be implicated here. But they are going to be asked a lot of questions. They've also made it clear they might ask questions outside of Epstein. It's important to note, too, Errol, that this is fairly unprecedented. The last time that a president came before Congress for questioning was in the 1980s with Gerald Ford.
Wow.
President Trump, when they were investigating January 6th, sued to block talking before Congress, and ultimately they rescinded that subpoena. So this is highly, highly unusual for a former president to be taken to do this.
Yeah, so we'll watch this closely. Let's speak about the survivors now, because you've got lawyers for multiple survivors now asking the...
Let me just say this. So they got pictures of Bill Clinton in the hot tub and all of that. Lord, that he, had photos taken with Epstein. Yeah, they definitely want to talk to him in person. Okay. Now, they're probably assuming that since, Hillary's married to Bill, that maybe she knows some things because of just the proximity of her being married, to him, pillow talk type of thing, right? So I'll be interested in hearing if they make it public, like what did they ask Trump? I mean, ask Clinton, and what did he say? Like, yeah, I would like to hear that. What y'all think?
to effectively take the website down, where they published some unredacted files on Friday. I just want to play some sound from Congresswoman Nancy Mace. She spoke about that failure on the takeout last night.
This was a grave concern of victims prior to the release of the material. It is disturbing. I've worked with a lot of victims over the years. When judges release their names and make them public, it is humiliating, it is embarrassing, it is terrifying, and it's re-traumatizing for those who survived this nightmare.
The DOJ says it already removed some of those files, but how did this happen, and is that really enough?
I mean, how it happened, we don't know the answer to that, Errol. And I think a real flaw here is there's both been an under and an over redaction, it appears. So many of these women's names have come out. They say nearly 100. And at the same time, it appears that a lot of men's names may have been redacted. There are hundreds of thousands of pages that are redacted that Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche, they need to provide a written explanation for. Now, when it comes to the women, they've asked for all of the files to be taken down. They say they are getting death threats, private banking information has been disclosed, a number of Jane Does, women who never wanted their names out there, now have their information out in the public. So the irony is strong here, too. These are women who have wanted these files out in the public for so long. They're now asking for them to be taken down and carefully scrutinized and redacted to make sure that no further harm is done here.
I remember the DOJ saying they were delayed in releasing these documents because they had to be careful to redact. So how they released them without those redactions is unclear. Katrina, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, I agree. How did they release that without having the redactions done? That's just, I just don't even understand that. Not at all. What do we have here? We have, okay. We have Michaela saying your president had good ideas, but it's very difficult to get it in reality. Yeah. I can understand that. We have Audrey here. Welcome to the live stream, Audrey. I think that no one is going to tell the truth. You're probably right. You're probably right. We have C Heights 1317. Welcome to the live stream. See how he's saying those victims are afraid. I would be afraid, especially if you weren't some of the ones that were very like vocal and front and center, like the young lady who unalived herself. I want to say was it last year, April, one of the main victims. Like, yeah, like I mean, I think they were okay with speaking out if they could remain unidentified. But they pretty much put these people out there. And I don't know how you can say or excuse that them putting this folks information. Like you put out people banking information? Who does that? Like, I don't understand. I don't understand that. How do you put out people's like private banking information, their personal info when these people have asked to be, to be like Jane Doe's, to be unidentified. Like that could be considered like I don't know what all these people were doing, but it could be embarrassing, you know, what they were doing, back at that time. And from my understanding is that a lot of the people that are considered the perps, their information is redacted, but not the victims. So I tell y'all what, though, I am going to see about getting access to the files, like not all of them, but like some of them, just to kind of see what the process is, like what do they have. So yeah, I think I'm going to do that because I'm kind of intrigued now as to what is in all these files. Yeah, I want to know. And I've been watching different videos where it kind of tell us what's in there, but I just kind of want to see a couple things on my own and then rely on them videos. You know how we do. So we have Michaela saying, yes, nobody will tell the truth. We have Ascending saying, a law was passed before the release to remove the redactions. I didn't know that. I didn't know that. Okay. See how it says thank you? And then we got Ascending saying, even though both weren't on the suicide. Oh, okay. Got you. Okay. Yeah, I did not know about that. I did not. Mm-mm. So we're gonna change gears real quick because I think I told you guys, well, I did tell some of you guys when I first started talking about this whole thing with ICE about how we have to figure out different ways to communicate, have a voice, because we want to stay on this side of the earth, right? So I have some what I call ICE interactions that I thought were interesting, that I want you guys to see. And yeah, I think that we need to see some of this stuff, and it may be, if there's a protester who's watching, maybe they will, operate a little differently because we want to keep you guys here. And like I said before, I do not think that they're going to pull back on the agents out in Minnesota. They're going to be going other places too, and I think that it's going to be a lot more of what we've been seeing. Um, and that Trump is going to do what he's going to do when he's ready to do it. So let's go into some of these interactions here. And yeah, here we go.
People outside of here need to pay attention because it's coming to a city near you. I'd heard that there would be a veteran-led protest across the street from the Whipple Federal Building. At some point, a bunch of agents lined up in sort of like a military formation. I was across the street into an entranceway of a parking lot taking photos, and I was tackled by 2 or 3 agents in green to the ground, face down. They started screaming at me, "We got you because we saw you bear spraying your people." And I said, "No, you didn't." They're screaming at me to put my hands behind my back. They set up a tear gas canister very close to me. I could literally barely breathe. Honestly, I didn't know what was going to happen to me. If I pass out and they bring me into that building, how long would I be in there for? Would I ever see my cameras again? And so I decided to throw them. And then I yelled my name out. And I yelled, "I can't breathe," so someone could grab it and save the images because I felt like what I had photographed there should be seen.
We kind of locked eyes, John and I, and he tossed his camera to me. Press supposed to stay neutral. But in that half a second or two, I just thought, I'm going to grab this and then do my best to get some images that covered it. There was an image of an ICE agent trying to grab John's phone out of his hand.
Somewhere about that time, a hand came around and inches away from my eye, sprayed it with bear spray. I literally couldn't see anything. My eyes were just in so much pain. Then they picked me up, handcuffed me, walked me into the building. Once they finally released me, I waited until I got my camera before I was comfortable going to the hospital because I didn't know who had it. I had multiple wounds on my leg from pepper bullets, chemical burns in my eye. I didn't look at any photos again for several days, actually. I was pretty amazed to see how aggressive some of the photos look. I think it's unlike anything I've seen here before. It's a different type of aggression somehow against people who are using their right to speak. It appears like they can do what they want and there's no repercussions.
Naively, we don't think it should be happening here. You know, it has been and it is, and it seems to be getting to a boiling point.
Just got an alert right now from a rapid response network that maybe there's something nearby. Lots of people are having much worse experiences with the agents than I am, like their dad being torn out of their arms and dragged away, or little kids that are being grabbed. That photo really isn't about me. It's about freedom of the press, for one, people's freedom themselves. How do you fight back against this? It deserves to be seen what's going on around here.
So I agree with that. I think that it does deserve to be seen, us seeing what's going on out here. We need to see what's going on, out there on the front lines with the protests, right? I mean, so hold on. We got Scott Jackson in the house. Okay, welcome to the live stream. Then we have Brian Little B. Frazier saying, "Let's go ICE." Welcome to the live stream. Then we have Every Time in the house. Only scary if you're a moron. No, you ain't got to be no moron for that to be scary. I mean, did you not see what we just saw? Did you not see that? So we got Trailer Shift. Welcome to the live stream. Saying, every time you're a lawless sob. Okay. Then we have user Tinfoil Hat. Welcome to the live stream. They're saying, when the SHTF, I would want that rapid response app on my phone. What is the rapid response app? What is that? So we have Every Time saying, what do you even mean? Elaborate. You're asking me, what do I mean about that being scary? When I saw that man on the ground with all those people on him and he's throwing his phone to someone because he's thinking he may not live. Are you asking me about that? Is that what you're asking me about, sir? And that goes back to my point, like, if you go out there, that's what you may experience. I'm not going out there. So I want people who may look at this live stream and they're thinking about, what, because someone said they are a protester, and I get it, but this is what is happening to people. You know what I'm saying? So let's see what we have going on here in the chat. So hopefully I answered what Every Time Food was saying. Like, yeah, I'm not going out to protest. Like I said before, we need people to figure out how to use their voice to not be put in those kind of circumstances, in my opinion. But people can do what they want. I understand that as well. So we had Trailer Shift saying, every time cope harder. Every Time says, cope with what? Joseph says, no, people have been lawless. JF Beard, welcome to the live stream, says, maybe you should stay at home and let ICE do their job. So if you were an ICE agent, would you want people interfering with you doing your job? I would not. User Tinfoil Hat says, the photographer mentioned rapid response app, a tracking device on your iPhone. I was wondering what that was. Thank you for spelling that out for me. I had never heard of that, but thank you. Every Time says rioting, trespassing, destruction of property, impeding federal officials, but yes, lawless. And then Joseph said that's BS propaganda. So let's go ahead with the next interaction here.
All the agents downstairs, they didn't know what was going on. They was even shocked that I was back into custody. They was like, Harrison, please come outside, we want to talk to you. I was like, no, for what? I just checked in like a week ago, so I know I'm good. Do you have a warrant? They said, no, we don't have a warrant. I was like, okay, go come back with a warrant, and I'll let you in. I could probably say like 10 or 15 ICE agents and cars in the front. Everybody on the block was outside.
What warrant? Wait, 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 wait.
The ICE agents are weird, man. They took trophy pictures with their personal phones. One stood by me on the right side of me, one stood on the left side of me, and they went like thumbs up and took pictures with their personal phones. And I wasn't the only one they did that to. They did that to everybody and then took me in the building to booking, pat me down, then cut the bracelet off.
They actually called his cell phone and I answered and she's like, "Where's Garrison?" And I'm like, "Huh?" She's like, "Where's Garrison? He doesn't have his ankle monitor on. Where is he?" And I was like, "You took him." And she's like, "I'm not even in Minnesota."
So the
She was
department that is responsible for monitoring you all of these past 17 years didn't even know
where he was.
Everybody in the holding tank has shackles on. So imagine trying to walk around everybody with shackles on. You got to use the bathroom in front of everybody.
Seems like the whole point was humiliation, wasn't it?
Yeah.
That's what it felt like.
And I said, like, how can y'all deport me? And I've been following all these instructions for all these years. And the guy was like, it's above my pay grade. Got home, my family was there, gave everybody hugs, and we just
We actually went to the neighbors to thank them. It was late at night.
I was supposed to go check in the next day. I wake up in the morning, we drive to the Whipple building. They come out, say, I'm being taken back into custody.
He was able to call me, and I could hear them in the background like, why is he here? They did not know what was going on, like why he was back, why he was rearrested.
where it's clear that one part of ICE is doing something, but the other part of ICE has no idea what's going on. And it's that other part of ICE that was the ones that were responsible for your order of supervision. There's always been a systematic way of doing a deportation if that's going to happen. And it just seems that there's no systems here. Somebody said we have to make we have to make a symbol of Mr. Gibson, and so just do whatever it takes to do it. There was no systematic order of how things normally happen in the right process.
My. So did y'all catch all that? I mean, how this man had been doing his thing, doing his checking ins and all that for like 17 years, and like different parts of ICE are not communicating. The people he's working with, thinking that he's on the run, but he's already been taken in by the other part of ICE. That's something right there. Very much so sounds unorganized. What do you guys think? Let me go to the comments here. I see a lot of chat going on here. Let me go back a little bit. So we have every time saying 18 USC section 111, often written as 18 USC 111, is a federal criminal statute titled assaulting, resisting, or impeding certain officers or employees. Joseph said that does not apply. First of all, y'all, for those who have liked the live stream, I really appreciate that. Thank you for the 26 likes. For those who have not done so, if you could, I would appreciate that. Please like, share, comment, and subscribe. Thank you so much. We got every time fullback saying blocking a federal official's vehicle can be illegal under U.S. federal law, particularly if it involves forcibly impeding, resisting, or interfering with the officer while they are performing duties. And he says that's under 18 USC 111. Joseph is saying no warrant, no authority, no warrant to do anything. Every time Fu is saying, no warrant for what? Okay. And he says, probable cause does not always require a warrant under the Fourth Amendment of the U.S. Constitution. The Fourth Amendment states, I don't know if he is about to write that out. Not sure. Well, let's keep this going. Okay. No probable cause, but Joseph says that we have every time food saying, bah ha ha. Okay, Mr. All Caps, just because you're emotional, it doesn't dictate laws and statutes. Ascending says ICE doesn't need a warrant if they have an order for removal. Stop getting advice from Tim Walz. Joseph is saying ICE needs warrants. Ascending says nope, they don't. We looked at that yesterday, as a matter of fact. Um, I don't know if I can pull that up real quick because there was like reasonable cause. Let me see if I can find it real fast, y'all. Let's see. Give me a second here. So it says ICE agents generally do not need a judicial warrant to make arrests in public spaces, as they have authority to arrest individuals they suspect are in the U.S. illegally without one. However, entering a private home usually requires consent or a judicial warrant signed by a judge, though recent policy allows administrative warrants for some entries. Now, when we saw the video just now, the gentleman, was saying that he asked about a warrant and they left and came back, but in the meantime, they had, officers, agents in the front and the back, right? And they showed the wife the warrant on a phone after they arrested her husband. That's what they mentioned here. Okay. So we have so as the answer is yes and no. For public spaces, they do not need a warrant if they think the person's here illegally. To go into a home, private space, they do have to have a warrant. Although they're now saying that there's certain rules saying that they may not need it. They didn't go into specifics on that and what I just read. All right. So we got Ken and Corey here. Welcome to the live stream. We have every time food saying, what am I missing here? Haha. Why aren't people out protesting US citizens that are homeless and in poverty versus people whose first action coming here is breaking the law? Ascending says, anyone else knows that Joseph offers nothing except disagreement? Ascending. Okay, we have now okay, I'm gonna go ahead and play the next video. I'll let y'all keep going in the chat, keep doing what you do. On to the next.
You're breaking my window, guys. I'm a U.S. citizen. It's insane. Insane. This guy's breaking my window, guys.
New at 11, this woman in El Monte sharing her story after live streaming her detention by ICE, which included agents smashing her car windows out with a hammer. She was just released from custody tonight, and she's speaking out about this frightening ordeal. Eyewitness News reporter Michelle Fisher joining us now live with her story. Michelle?
Mark, Maria Sente is a U.S. citizen. She's also a community observer and believes that has made her a target of ICE. Her detention today, not the first run-in she's had with immigration agents, but tonight she is expressing gratitude this ordeal wasn't worse.
What I'll say real fast is that I do believe that she's accurate, that she's definitely being tracked by ICE. I do believe when they first encountered her and told her, hey, you've been warned, like they're probably running your tags and getting your info. If you recall, on yesterday, we had the gentleman that was following the ICE agents, and they went into his neighborhood, past his house, into a cul-de-sac. So they ran his place to know where he lived. And then he continued to follow them, although he was near his home. He didn't go home, and they ended up arresting him. Remember that from yesterday? So, yeah, she's probably correct. They do recognize who she is, and that's probably why she also got, arrested, because they gave her the warning, and she still continued to follow them. So let's keep this going, because she has a very interesting story, if I recall correctly.
things that she shared with us is that she'll take a broken car window any day over being shot.
You're breaking my window, guys. I'm a U.S. citizen. It's insane. Insane. This guy's breaking my window, guys.
Her voice trembles with fear as Maria Sente holds back tears.
They're gonna try to arrest me.
Federal immigration agents breaking the U.S. citizen's car window with a hammer in an emotional arrest streamed live on Instagram Friday.
I thought this is it. This is my last moments.
Sente is still processing the frightening ordeal, which she believes stemmed from another encounter with ICE 2 days prior, agents stopping her car off the 10 freeway.
That's my first warning? Okay. Get out of my city. Get out of my city. Turns out they weren't stopping me. They were just intimidating me.
Sente was once again recording Friday afternoon when ICE surrounded her vehicle around 2 at the Chevron on Peck and Valley in El Monte.
They're gonna try to arrest me. This is insane. I can't believe this is happening, guys. Lord, please protect me. Lord, please. Guys, I don't trust them. One of the officers got on the curb on the middle island to box my car in. One came on here and one was behind me. Because of all the commotion, police department got there.
But El Monte police did not intervene as Sente was arrested.
They threw me in their car. We got on the 10 freeway. They took me all the way on a joyride to Santa Ana, and then they get off on an exit.
By 5 Friday evening, Sente, whose charges include resisting arrest, was released. Her experience worsened when she says El Monte police refused to let her use the restroom.
They made me pee in the parking lot in some bushes behind the horse carriers with handcuffs on.
The El Monte Police Department issuing a lengthy statement saying in part they responded to a CBP call for assistance to support public safety, but their officers were not involved in the federal operation. This group of protesters gathering Friday night outside the police station, Sente, undeterred by her ordeal, joining the group demonstrating against ICE.
I prefer that they were taking their time taking me on a joyride with BS charges than picking up innocent people that they could have hurt on the street. So I thanked them for that. I said, thank you. Thank you. I thank them for not killing me too.
Now, we did reach out to Customs and Border Protection for comment on this detention, but so far we have not yet heard back. Meantime, there's a GoFundMe page that's been established today, helping to raise money for Maria as she prepares for a legal defense and also now has to make repairs to her vehicle. Reporting live tonight, I'm Michelle Fisher, ABC 7 Eyewitness News.
So yeah. So now she got to pay to get her window fixed and she got to find a charge. Yeah. Got to go fund me. Okay. Let me see what y'all saying. Yeah. And Cindy said what I was thinking. I was wondering why did she just not open the door? But I mean, was she afraid of what they would do? It's gonna be the same result whether they open the door and you walk out or if they knock your window in. I mean, I don't know, but maybe in the heat of the moment, she just didn't know what to do. I don't know. Let's see. Okay. Okay, we got so we have every time saying, oh, that's right, because some glowing screens told them to. Joseph says, I poop more intelligence than you have. Oh my goodness, y'all. Okay, we're gonna go to the next video. Yeah, we're gonna go to the next one. Y'all are a mess.
Everyone you see on this couch ended up in Texas a week and a half ago after federal agents stormed into their St. Paul home and hauled them away. Joe Campos says when he arrived in Texas, he had to sleep on the floor, had no food or access to a shower. He also says agents took selfies with him and made fun of him. His
Now, mind you, the gentleman, the black guy we just saw, he was saying the same thing. They took trophy pictures with them while they were, chained up, right? This guy is saying the same thing. Just wanted to make that point. Let's keep it going.
Whose name is also Joel Campos, went to a different facility in another city in Texas with his 12-year-old son, who's not on camera but translated for us. He says agents accused him of trafficking narcotics. His 12-year-old son says an agent told him he was in the country illegally.
Un problema de dermatitis aguda.
Family friend Angel Bermudez, who was at the house during the raid, says he ended up in the hospital after getting an infection on his back while in custody in Texas. The family also thanked their neighbors for their support, including Sean Piet.
I brought some paperwork some places. I volunteered to go pick them up, and I've been helping them and watching their house and watching their vehicles, anything like that. I've just been kind of whatever they needed.
And in this court filing, the U.S. Attorney's Office here in Minnesota apologized to the court, the family, and their attorney. According to court records, the feds still have not turned over a warrant for that raid. We've reached out to Homeland Security officials for comment. The agency replied earlier tonight saying that they need some more information.
So they're just saying that that whole family, that's about what, 5, 6 gentlemen that got picked up, and they didn't even get a warrant. They didn't even see the warrant and still haven't gotten it. All right, y'all, let's keep this thing going.
Right now, a New Jersey family torn apart by ICE is fighting to get their dad back. Adonai Rodriguez was at home watching cartoons with his 6-year-old daughter, but when he stepped out to pick up some food, he got caught in an ICE raid. According to the mother, who was at work at the time, a neighbor found the child walking by herself on the street, crying out for her dad, asking, quote, "Where's Poppy? Where's Poppy?" The mother tells MS Now the father pleaded with ICE agents, telling them his daughter is all alone.
Hey, my daughter's inside. Please, only let me one call. They may call her the mother. You know, I'm not resisting no arrest. And I feel the police or the, ICE immigration, no. We don't come in for your daughter and just start laughing in the face. We're not coming for your daughter. We don't care for your daughter.
MS Now's Laura Hayfully joins me now. Laura, what else did she tell you?
Chris, I've been in contact with that family since this happened. And of course, they're heartbroken, they're confused, but especially for their 6-year-old daughter who was left in the street to watch her father be detained by ICE. The mayor of Morristown confirmed to us that during this ICE operation, multiple people were arrested right here outside of a local laundromat, including Adonai Rodriguez, the father of that 6-year-old. We have video from that ICE operation. You can see ICE agents running through the street, working to detain people, using vehicles to box them in order to put them in handcuffs. Following this moment was the arrest of Adonai Rodriguez. He was handcuffed and he was led into a vehicle, again with his 6-year-old daughter, wondering where he was being taken to.
Wow. Wow. So the mom is saying that she was off to work. Let me put this back on here right. So they're saying that the mom was off to work. The little girl was with her dad. He ran to get some food real quick. They had a raid going on. He got caught in all that. And when she was like, "Hey, my daughter is by herself," they said, "We don't care for your daughter." Interesting. Renee's brains. Welcome to the live stream, Miss Renee. Why was he running? I guess he was running because he may not be here legally, fully. That's my guess. Yeah. So we got user 10-4 hat still in the chat saying if he weren't illegal, then they wouldn't be in that situation. Okay. Okay, Joseph came through with a very spirited comment. Ascending saying, if you come into the country legally, you are required to speak English. Okay. Joseph says, no, you aren't. Okay. But yeah, in this case here, yeah. We're gonna go on to the next video, y'all.
I'm
The video shows what appears to be federal agents detaining a corrections officer recruit in Portland, Maine. In the video, the man tells the agents he's coming from work and that he works for the government. The Cumberland County Sheriff confirmed the unidentified officer's detention during a press conference and says the recruit underwent a vigorous vetting and hiring process. The man is not a U.S. citizen, but his I-9 employment eligibility form indicated he was able to work in the U.S. until April 2029, according to the sheriff.
We covered our bases before we hired him. And it's me going out there saying that, you know what, I guess if you're not the card-carrying, U.S. citizen, then he must be illegal, because that's what they told me is he's illegal. And he's definitely not a criminal. So what part of him is illegal? I don't know. Every indication we've found is that this was a squeaky clean individual that really hadn't done anything at all.
CNN has reached out to DHS for comment, but has not yet received a response. It is not immediately clear if the man is still in federal custody.
Okay, and that gentleman was actually getting ready to work for the law enforcement on his way home, and it got stopped, y'all. And the guy who was gonna hire him was saying that they did a records check and they didn't find anything. So they're not even sure like why is he being detained, right? So I don't know. So what we got going on here in the chat, y'all. Joseph says being a good citizen is not breaking the law. Ascending is saying it's even required to become a citizen. Every time Food says, like, if I drive around intoxicated with my kid at home, they are supposed to just magically know and be expected to take care of my kid. Well, no, but I believe that I guess he was letting them know about the child so that they could go and get her or something, or make sure she's good or whatever, or call the mom, something like that. I'm not sure what the process. Well, typically you wouldn't leave a kid at home unattended, if the child, like I saw a person on a video yesterday that was being reacted to, and a lady um had her two kids in the vehicle. She got pulled over because her temporary tag was expired, and she needed to go pick up her actual tag. And so they told her to go ahead on and go do what she needed to do, but she got out her car and was trying to, attack the police and said she was gonna pow him. So I want to say that they brought in additional people to arrest her, but they did work with her as far as calling her mom or someone to come get them two kids that she had in the vehicle with her. So that's a little bit different than having your kid at home. She had her kids with her in the vehicle because they're gonna get that vehicle towed or something like that. So yeah, what we got here? So we have okay, every time Food says her dad was a good citizen for not having his papers. LMAO, I'm a citizen and expected to carry my ID. Okay. We have Glenn Paul here. Welcome to the live stream. In the words of the great philosopher Ted Nugent, if you can't speak the language, get the F out of the country. So every time Food says, if I'm expected to carry my ID, then he can darn sure carry his papers. We have Joseph saying, ha, Ted Springett. Let's see. Every time Food says, I can just go drive around with no license, registration, and insurance. And exactly why was his 6-year-old left at home? Joseph says more F propaganda. Every time Food says leaving a 6-year-old home alone is very likely to be considered child neglect in most states. A 6-year-old child is typically seen as too young to handle emergencies, use a phone responsibly, or care for basic needs safely. I guess he thought he was going to run to the store and then come back, not knowing that he's going to get caught up in this raid. But I'm with you. I would not leave a 6-year-old at the house by themselves. I would still take them with me wherever I'm going. That's just me. And I have 6-year-old nephews. So yeah, I wouldn't lead them anywhere. Let's see. Let's go on. What else do we have here? We got another video. Let's keep it moving.
Why are you asking me for my paperwork? Because of your accent. You have an accent too. Where were you born, sir? Where were you born at? Put your hands behind your back.
Let me just say this. Now, I get the man making the point of, okay, you're asking me about my papers because I have an accent, but yeah, you have one too. I get your point, but this not the time to be making points. See what I'm saying? This ain't the time to be making no point now. So if you got the papers, show them the papers, but doing all this back and forth is not gonna bode well for you. You know what I'm saying? Let's keep it going.
Ramon Monero was detained by U.S. Border Patrol agents outside his home in a Minneapolis suburb after an agent questioned whether he was a citizen because of his accent.
I'm from this country. You know what, sir? Now talking to you, hearing that you have an accent, I have reason to believe that you are not born of this country. So you just raised an accent? What country are you from?
According to Monero, agents took a photo of him and searched a system that indicated he's been a U.S. citizen since 2019. They also checked his U.S. passport card, which he keeps in his wallet, before letting him go. Monero, who was born in Mexico and obtained a U.S. passport in 2021, was detained in front of his 5-year-old daughter.
Well, she was shaking when I got in the home, and she's like, "Are you okay? That we're gonna take you? I don't want to lose you." And I'm like, "You're not gonna lose me." Even though I'm a citizen, still feel afraid because they don't care if you're a citizen or not. And especially because I know I have a really strong accent speaking English. I know I can be a target because who are they targeting just because our appearance and because of our accent.
CNN has contacted the Department of Homeland Security for comment on the incident and to ask if agents are allowed to temporarily detain people on the street with accents.
Why?
Well, I mean, it says that if they have reason to believe that you're here illegally, I mean, they can do what they do, right? Like I was saying before, like when the man asked him for the papers, like just show him the papers, opposed to trying to make the point of, well, you got an accent. You know what I'm saying? Like this ain't the time for that, in my opinion. What y'all saying here in the chat? Every time food says Save Kids Worldwide and the American Academy of Pediatrics strongly advise no child under 12 be left alone. Glenn Paul says you have to be 12 years old to legally babysit and take a certain amount of hours of classes to actually babysit. Every time food says facts, for a 6-year-old, this will almost certainly be viewed as inadequate supervision and potential neglect if reported. Example, if a neighbor calls CPS or something goes wrong. Joseph says arrested for an accent. What the F? That's a Nazi trick. Cindy says no, it's not. Was he or wasn't he let go? He was let go, is what I understand. That he is an American citizen and that he has a passport. I mean, he had everything on him that he needed to give to the agent, but I'm not sure why he wanted to go back and forth with why am I being asked. You're being asked because they think you're an illegal alien because you do have an accent. I mean, I have an accent, you know what I'm saying? But nobody's they pretty much know I'm probably from here, you know what I'm saying? But my point is, like, sometimes you just gotta go ahead and get it for what they're asking for and stop you know, with the banter. You see what I'm saying? Like that's what's gonna work best for him. Now your child had to see you get, hemmed up, all these things, that's gonna be a lasting memory for her. You gotta know, it's a time and a place, in my opinion. So Cindy says they let him go after they verified his info. Yes. Joseph says no reason to check him in the first place. Well, this is the thing, Joseph. Like, they're going to be, if you have an accent, they're going to be checking people. If you have a very strong accent like he does, they're going to be checking them. Like watch this next thing that I'm going to show y'all. This might be, yeah, check this out.
I don't want to talk about that, but pay with the bad? Yes. Unfortunately, yes. I agree with the immigration laws. Probably not. Okay. I think we should be different. Like if you don't have any background criminal, I think you should have a way for you to stay. Okay. But I'm not the one who make the laws. I'm the one who comply with the laws. Okay. That's the big difference. Like if you are really loving this country, like I do it. Okay. Like I make this country my home, you should comply with the law, not against the law.
All right, y'all heard what he said. He said that basically he's not the one that made the laws. He complies with them, and he's trying to, stay in this country, right? So, yeah, that is what he had to say. Like when they pull him over, he's been pulled over twice. He gives him the identification. He's respectful, polite, and he's just trying to keep it moving. Like this is not the time to be trying to have a back and forth with these people because they do not care. Okay, we've seen two people say on this thing today how they got taken in, and you got agents doing, the thumbs up, the trophy pose on the side of the person being brought in. Okay, but yes, y'all, if you're watching the replay of this, make sure you put something in the chat. If you have not done so, please go ahead and like the live stream, support the channel, support me by subscribing to the platform. I don't ask for much. It's all free. And I do plan on going live again tomorrow because I got some more things I want to talk about. So I hope to see you guys tomorrow night at 7:15 Eastern Time. Got to get that schedule. And with that, you have a blessed night. Stay warm, and I'll see you tomorrow. Out.